Okay, so for this deep dive, let's turn our attention inward to a feeling we spend, I think, so much of our energy trying to outrun. There's this very specific kind of stillness that can arrive when all the noise finally fades. And I don't just mean the sound of traffic stopping.
No, it's something internal.
Exactly. It's when something inside you stops trying to perform, you know. You could be alone in a quiet room, or even weirdly walking through a huge crowd, and then suddenly you just feel this vast, echoing exposure.
It's the moment the mask slips. And I think for most of us, that feeling arrives not as some gentle invitation, but it feels like a shadow, one we've been running from our whole lives.
Yeah.
It's that moment we feel profoundly alone.
And that's the great paradox of our time, isn't it? We are so hyper-connected, constantly scrolling, getting notifications, you know, putting these curated versions of our lives out there. And yet, we're dealing with a genuine epidemic of this deep personal loneliness.
And society's reaction is what makes it so painful. We treat being alone as a failure. It registers almost instantly as proof that we haven't succeeded at connection or that we aren't worthy of it. So what's the default reaction? Panic. We frantically search for the next distraction, the next thing to do, anything to fill that suddenly revealed hollow space. We call it emptiness or despair.
So here's the radical idea we're exploring. What if we have just fundamentally misunderstood this feeling, this thing we call loneliness? It feels like something we have to cure.
Or eliminate, or run from.
Yeah.
Precisely. And if we look to some of the ancient wisdom traditions for guidance, what we label loneliness might actually be the first truly honest conversation we've ever had with ourselves.
The first honest one.
Yeah, that moment of separation reveals an underlying truth. The original concept of suffering, dukkha, which is often translated as, unsatisfactoriness or feeling of dislocation, it applies perfectly here. Loneliness becomes suffering not because being alone is inherently wrong, but because we fiercely resist it.
It's the resistance.
The resistance is the fuel for the ache. We cling to this idea that connection must be constant and that feeling separate is a problem to be solved.
I can feel that resistance in my own body. When that feeling of loneliness strikes, the craving it's immediate. It's a physical impulse, you know? I need someone else. I need validation. I need another person to approve of me and make this feeling just go away.
And that right there is the pivotal question for this whole deep dive. What are you truly longing for when you crave that external connection? Is it really another person? Or is it actually your own presence?
That stops me cold. Explain what you mean by craving your own presence.
Well, think of it this way. For years, maybe decades, many of us have been fundamentally absent from our own lives. We've outsourced our sense of self-worth.
To our jobs, to likes on social media, to what our partner thinks of us.
Exactly, to all of it. So when that external noise and company are removed, the whole system that you use to calculate your worth suddenly goes offline. And that resulting empty feeling, that's the deep, profound yearning for the one presence you've neglected the most, your own.
Wow. So the silence just reveals that you weren't home to begin with.
You are home. So the feeling isn't a defect or a flaw that needs patching up.
It's an invitation.
It is a clear-cut invitation to turn inward. And history is just full of these examples. Think about the Buddha, who walked away from a palace, from ultimate comfort in society, to sit in complete solitude. He wasn't trying to escape the world.
No, he was trying to meet it.
Fully. To meet it fully, without the buffer of all those illusions. And it was only in that profound aloneness, under the Bodhi tree, that this radical insight could finally bloom. His solitude wasn't a punishment. It was a radical preparation.
And we see that in more modern psychological terms too, right? There are parallels.
Absolutely. Carl Jung talked about the necessity of confronting the shadow. All those disowned, difficult, or avoided parts of ourselves that, social performance lets us keep locked away.
Right.
It's only in solitude, when we drop that external narrative, that we can start to integrate these fragments and become a whole person. Loneliness, if you look at it through that lens, is just the discomfort of finally coming face to face with the self you've been so expertly avoiding.
Okay, but practically speaking, facing that self it's terrifying. I mean, when I imagine actually tuning inward and just staying there, the discomfort is huge. The mind starts racing, emotions surge, and there's this mental screaming for a distraction. That's when I reach for my phone or the to-do list or anything. So how do we stay with that initial, almost panicked pain?
That is the core challenge. And the fundamental practice is, it's very simple, but it requires immense courage. Stop treating loneliness as an emergency.
Not an emergency.
No. We have to learn to sit with it not as a final diagnosis of our failure, but as you would sit with a deeply wounded friend. You wouldn't tell a wounded friend to just stop being wounded. You would simply stay. You'd be present. You might even ask it gently, what are you trying to show me?
I love that shift. From a battle against the feeling to a compassionate inquiry. But what does that sitting actually look like in practice?
It's really the essence of Zen tradition, especially the practice of shikantaza. It literally just means just sitting.
Just sitting.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
goal, no mantra, no special posture you have to get right. It's just you. The mind will scream, I should be meditating better, I should be solving this, I should be jawing someone. But in shikantaza, you drop every should. You are just you, sitting with the raw experience of being, with no agenda.
And why is the absence of a goal so important here?
Because goals always imply a dissatisfaction with the present moment. Loneliness is the mind clinging to the past, the connection that was lost, or clinging to the future, the connection that's needed. When you just sit, you break that cycle. You allow yourself to stay, even when that urge to flee is overwhelming. And you start to notice something amazing. The loneliness softens. Not because it goes away, but because you stop fighting it. You stop labeling it as bad. You become spacious enough to hold the discomfort.
That's such a profound contrast because the world is constantly telling you to fill the void, get busy, consume something, achieve something.
And wisdom tells you to become the void, to become so spacious, so present that the void stops feeling like a threat and instead starts to feel like freedom. And this active presence, it isn't just philosophical, it has real psychological benefits. Solitude lets the brain reset, process experiences, and reconnect with our core values. It stops us from just running on reactive autopilot.
Okay, so once we've made that choice to stop treating it like an emergency, what are the actionable tools, the specific mindfulness practices that can help us cultivate that inner stability when we're alone?
We can turn to what I call the alchemy of equanimity. It's anchored in this concept of upekkha. Now, equanimity is often misunderstood as being indifferent, but it's anything but. It's a deep, steady presence that holds an intense feeling without clinging to it or pushing it away.
And we tend to react in one of two extremes, don't we? We either, numb the feeling, flee into busyness, or we completely fuse with it. We believe the story, I am a lonely person, as if it's a permanent identity.
Exactly. Upekkha offers this third, much more mature way. It's about observing the feeling without judgment, allowing it to come and go like weather in the sky of your awareness.
So you feel the ache in your chest, you notice the anxious thought.
But you don't build a permanent house around it. You just breathe. You witness its energy rise and fall. And when you practice this, the loneliness starts to lose its power to define you because you realize it's just a temporary state, not who you are.
But realizing that, it requires a deep level of inner tenderness. And I think a lot of us just haven't practiced being tender with ourselves.
That's where we bring in metta, loving kindness. We're so quick to offer it to others, but it is absolutely vital to direct it inward, especially when you feel vulnerable and alone. The practice is so simple and powerful. You just say to yourself, may I be happy, may I be safe, may I be at ease, may I accept myself just as I am. True strength begins not with suppression, but with this immense unconditional tenderness towards your own vulnerability. You are finally giving yourself the acceptance you were looking for outside.
That makes the whole process sound so much less daunting. It's like replacing that inner critic with a compassionate voice when the feeling shows up.
Precisely. And we can also integrate vipassana or insight meditation. By observing the sensations, the mental patterns without reacting, we start to see loneliness for what it is. Not this solid, scary monster that's going to swallow us whole,
Right.
but a passing constellation of energy, a tightness in the throat, maybe a flutter in the stomach, a specific mental story. You see that it arises, it lingers for a bit, and then inevitably it dissolves.
And for the listener who, maybe can't just stop and sit on a cushion in the middle of a busy day, how can they embody this practice right in the moment?
It's entirely portable. Say you're alone, maybe waiting in your car, walking home, and that old fear of disconnection starts to creep in. Pause just for a second. Don't rush to fill the silence. Ask yourself one central question. What am I feeling right now?
Okay.
And not in your story about it. Not I'm being abandoned, but purely as a sensation in your body. Is it heat? Is it tension? Emptiness? Then just place a hand gently on your heart or on your stomach and breathe into that hand.
That physical touch must be really significant.
It's a critical signal to your nervous system. That simple intentional gesture literally signals, you are not abandoned, I am here with you. You become your own anchor in the storm. You are embodying the steady presence that you thought was missing.
And when you look back across history, it's so clear that this state of secure solitude, it isn't just about inner peace. It's the actual birthplace of creativity, of vision, of revelation.
Absolutely. Solitude is a required ingredient for depth. Think of the poet Rumi. His most incredible world-changing verses came after the intense grief and isolation he felt. He used that inner space to discover something profound, something eternal.
Or Nikola Tesla.
Yes, or Nikola Tesla, who credited his greatest inventions to moments of deep solitude, where he could tune into these complex ideas without the noise of the outside world. The artist Agnes Martin said she painted with her back to the world because the best things, the truest visions, they happen in silence.
It shows that going inward isn't a retreat from life. It's actually preparation for truly engaging with it. And this brings us to that core paradox of connection we talked about. The more comfortable you become with being alone.
The more authentic and deep your external connections become.
Why is that?
The mechanism is crystal clear. Until you can be alone without panic, every single relationship you enter carries this incredible, suffocating weight of expectation. You're implicitly asking the other person to fix me or complete me or fill this hole inside of me. But when you achieve this secure solitude, you offer presence, not dependency. Your relationships shift fundamentally. They move from being driven by need to being driven by generosity. You're sharing your wholeness. You're not demanding they fix your broken parts.
That's true freedom and connection. I'm thinking back to the original suffering you mentioned, the craving.
Yes, Tana. All suffering, as the tradition teaches, arises from that, from craving and clinging to external things for a lasting peace. We crave the next notification, the next purchase, the next person, believing peace is waiting just outside our door. But peace was never out there. It was always in the center of the storm, just waiting for you to stop running.
So we've moved from simply enduring loneliness to actively choosing solitude as a kind of sanctuary. That's the journey.
That's the journey. And that profound choice leads us to the culmination of all this. The moment loneliness stops being a threat and becomes a teacher. Maybe even a companion. There's a beautiful old story about a monk who complained to his teacher, "Master, I feel so alone. My heart is heavy with this bitterness."
What did the teacher tell him?
Well, the master handed him a small bowl of water and a big pinch of salt. He told the monk to stir the salt in and taste the water. The monk grimaced and said it was intolerably bitter.
Of course.
Then the master led him to this massive, pristine lake. He poured the exact same pinch of salt into the vast water and told him to taste the lake. And the monk sipped it and said it was fresh and clean.
The lake just diluted the bitterness, so the salt was harmless.
So it is with loneliness, the master said. If your heart is a small, tightly contracted bowl, loneliness will overwhelm you. But if your heart is a lake open, spacious, unafraid, loneliness becomes just one ripple in an ocean of being. The feeling itself hasn't vanished.
But your capacity to hold it has expanded so much that it doesn't define the whole experience.
Exactly. We aren't meant to eliminate this state of aloneness, but to expand ourselves until that small, bitter feeling dissolves into a vast sense of belonging, not to any person, but to life itself.
And that awareness, that spaciousness, that's the deepest realization we can have, isn't it?
It is. The friend you've been seeking in others has been within you all along, not some fantasy self, but the quiet, steady awareness that has witnessed every joy, every failure, every moment of deep isolation. That awareness never left you. It was only waiting for you to stop looking elsewhere and finally turn inward.
So the practice is simple.
Incredibly simple. The next time you feel alone, don't reach for the familiar distraction. Reach instead for your breath. Sit in the stillness. Because loneliness doesn't vanish when someone else walks into the room. It vanishes when you finally walk into your own life.